What's up, Wastelanders? Hello and welcome to Tapes from the Wastes, a Fallout fan podcast bringing you discussions on all things Fallout and Fallout adjacent. I am one of your hosts, KDB, and today it is part 2 of our coverage of the Fallout TV show. And most importantly, of course, very importantly, I am not alone today. It's an episode where I'm joined live by my co-host, Eric, a.k.a. Sulior. How are you doing, mate?
Excuse me. It's been a Monday, but
are you awake yet?
It's already taken its toll on me, but I'm here. Yeah, I got my coffee as well. Here, move it. Got my dog with me also. She wanted to be a part of this, apparently.
Perfect. So Eric is up extra early today for this recording, which is very kind of him. There's a lot to talk. I just want to also, firstly, for anyone watching this on YouTube, you might notice my camera being really strange. I said to Eric, it's like I'm beaming from the moon, and there's a delay. I have no idea what's going on. I haven't changed anything. I haven't turned any settings off. It's just, that's just what happens when you do this stuff. So I do apologize, but hopefully the audio should be nice and clear, and there should be no problems. Sorry for those of you looking to see me in a smoother, higher frame rate today. Today you've got to deal with this shit, but well. So it is part 2. Part 1 of the Fallout TV show coverage we're doing here on Tapes is out. Some of you may have already listened to that. Eric and I basically did our own reviews of like a broad overview of the show, which... Like, I managed to talk for like an hour, and I really poured my heart out on the show, and just, because I hadn't really spoken to anybody about the show. Not even, I mean, you a little bit, but I was so saving my thoughts for that episode that it felt like such an expel of emotions and thoughts and stuff. So I really, really loved doing that. And obviously Eric gave his thoughts as well, and we both, we didn't get to speak to each other on that episode, but that's what we're here to do today. But I do recommend, if you've watched the Fallout TV show or are interested in watching it, go and listen to part 1, because today Eric and I, we're discussing the show together from some different angles, and more importantly, we're getting into full spoilers here. So in part 1, there was very mild spoilers, but nothing major. But here, the spoiler warning is just, the spoiler protection is off, and we can kind of say whatever we want. So hopefully everybody listening and watching has seen the show, because, we're going to spoil it. So, and there's a few ways we're going to approach the show today. Like I said on part 1, there's loads of other Fallout content creators out there that are covering the show and doing awesome jobs of covering the show. Eric is involved with some of these other content creators covering the show too, and people are doing full episode breakdowns, full like real deep dives, listing off every Easter egg and stuff like that. So we're not really doing that. We're doing just a bit more of a sort of broad general overview thing. So hopefully you get something out of that by listening to us today. Let's get into it. The show is out. Everybody is loving it. Before we talk about the actual show, though, Eric, how are you feeling about this kind of moment that Fallout is having? Because it's having a bit of a moment.
It's been awesome. Like, just seeing all the new people coming into the games. Like, whenever I log into 76, most of the people who are in the servers, aside from myself and whatever friends I'm running around with, has been new people. And like I kind of told this story, but I was hanging out with one of my friends this past Wednesday night, and I see Grafton Day going on. I'm like, do I really want to do Grafton Day? We've done it how many times now? And I saw one person doing it, and it was a level 10. Like, they are probably getting their ass handed to them. So let me head over there. So it was one person, level 10, still wearing their birthday hat, taking on a wave of super mutants and a Grafton monster. Like, okay, So I helped them clear everything out. I had that new cremator that the scoreboard has provided, which has been a lot of fun. and helped them out. I'm like, all right, come here, let me give you a bunch of stuff. So I gave them a bunch of plans and some, supplies and everything, and they were very grateful. So, and they actually gained a level. But yeah, that's kind of how it's been, is like not just Fallout 76, but like every single other Fallout game as well has seen an increase. Some of my friends are playing Fallout 4 for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's just been awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome is the right word. Like I said on part 1, like I've not seen this, and I've had a couple of other people say this to me as well, other friends who create stuff online. They've not seen this kind of like hype spike for a video game, like off the back of a TV show ever. And, because there's been a few adaptations of video game stuff throughout the years, but it feels like Fallout, which has got this history of this catalogue of games, and all of them are just spiking in sales and player numbers. Even Fallout 76, which you and I, we've said it plainly, we love Fallout 76. It's a great game. We try to tell people, but it feels like lots of other people are finally...
There's just that stigma from the launch that was still persisting.
Yeah.
And you'll still see that every now and then. Like, why are so many people playing this game now? It's trash. No, it's not.
No.
Never. I mean, yeah, the launch was rough, but it's been great since then. Like now people are starting to get it.
Yeah, we've been over it, and it's awesome to see the community welcoming everybody as well. I've long said that the Fallout community is the most friendliest of all the gaming communities that I'm involved with, and it just continues to show that now. And I've got friends who have either never played Fallout or they've returned to Fallout. They're all playing it and playing different versions of the games, and it's making me like Fallout more. And I think, could I love Fallout anymore? Well, apparently yes, because I'm loving it more. I want to revisit New Vegas. I want to revisit Fallout 3. Been playing 76 today. It's just like Fallout 4 has obviously got the update coming, so I'm going to jump back into that and check out the update. And yeah, it feels like such a huge moment. Our own show, our little corner of the Fallout fandom had like a big spike in listens, which, it's kind of like, it's unsurprising. Well, unsurprising is maybe the wrong word. Like, lots of people are searching for Fallout, so we've kind of gotten a bit of a hit off the back of that, which is really nice to see. So if you are a new listener, hello, welcome. Please check out our previous episodes and continue to kind of come along for the ride with us, and let us know what you think about Fallout. Are you a new fan? Are you a lapsed fan that's maybe returning because of the show? But the fact is, this TV show has just had, from Bethesda and Xbox and everybody's and Amazon's point of view, they all could not have wanted better. It's been highly well reviewed, loved by fans, and then from Bethesda's point of view, the game sales are booming and player numbers are booming. So it's just like a big win all around, really.
Yeah, for sure. And so many people are now like, okay, when's the new game? But it's like, about that.
Yeah.
It might be several years. So,
yeah.
But there's still lots to play, up until then. So
there is, and I've seen like different thoughts kind of battered around. Like some people, I've seen some of the what I would call more baity takes online, which are maybe Bethesda should have dropped Starfield and made Fallout 5 instead. And it's just like come on. Like, let's put that aside. They need to be given credit for doing what they've done with Starfield. Fallout is a separate thing. But then you think, well, actually, maybe it is kind of better for Fallout as a whole to put all this effort into the show and then introduce all those people to these games, which you can play pretty much everywhere, and they all pretty much run great, and they all have different appeals. I've seen people talking about like where's the best entry point. Like Fallout 4 is the most accessible, New Vegas is for like the hipstery story fans, and 3 is for like the more or RPG fans and stuff like that. And then so there are different ways to kind of tackle it, but I feel like making a new game is obviously on their radar. I would prefer they didn't rush anything. I would prefer they didn't bin off anything else they're doing. I think just carry on. We're in a position now, and we're going to talk a bit more about the future towards the end of this episode, but we could see more show, more games in the future, and let them get on with it and just don't rush it. I think we've got Fallout 76. They can pour some resources into that and add some new content, and who knows, maybe somebody from the show could show up in Fallout 76.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that Shenandoah update at the beginning of June, I believe, if I remember right. So now, that's already on the PTS. So
correct me if I'm wrong, because you sometimes know this stuff better than I do, but I was watching an interview with Todd Howard and Jonathan Nolan, and they said about, is there any, I think it was with IGN, and the presenter said, is there anything the show has done that you'd like to put into the games? And Todd Howard explicitly called out the big giant Brotherhood of Steel bag. Now, which I thought, yeah, of course, it's hilarious and it's fun. And I logged on to 76 today, and it's there on the store with a character. So was this a pre-existing thing?
That's
or what?
No, that's a new ally that you can have at your camp.
A light ally or
something. So that's probably what they're you have to place something in your camp, and then they'll walk over to it, like Adeline, the new Assaultron from the scoreboard. You place her table, like her autograph table, down. So that's probably what it is. I haven't placed him in my camp yet, but I do have him.
But that is new,
but
right?
That would be my guess.
The giant bag has never been in Fallout before, right?
No. That's just kind of a joke about how we're always over encumbered and just how much stuff we can fit through our bags.
Yeah. That got me good. Anytime any the Squire characters had to pick up that bag in the show, that was fun. Okay. So as we've established, like, Fallout is having a moment. It's having a huge moment, really positive, feels like it's cooler than it's ever been. And we're here today to talk a bit more about the show. So, yes, we've got our general reviews and feelings out the way. And let's talk about the show. I suppose as a little recap, and let's just keep this part brief, but what is your feeling on the show now, even a few days later, and you've been thinking about it more? How are you feeling about the TV show as a whole?
Oh, it's awesome. Excuse me. I thought it was absolutely brilliantly done. So much foreshadowing at the beginning. So many little things that are so easily missed. That I was actually watching episode 2 last night for another recording that I have to do later on, and just going back, I'm like, how did I not see that before? And so many things are hinted at in the first few episodes that they kind of pay off toward the end. And I mean, there's still plenty of questions that arise throughout the show that maybe some of them don't get answered, but everything's told so well in this show. And it's also not, it's not dumbed down, but it does do a great job of introducing a lot of these concepts to maybe people who don't know what Fallout is. I can't wait for more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of on the same page as you, to be honest. And like I say, go and see part 1 for more details from Eric and I. But I think it's very hard to find arguments for this not being the best, or certainly in the top 2 or 3 video game adaptations of all time. And to just kind of underline my reasoning for that, I think why this show deserves so much credit. I mean, there's so much I love about it, so much it does right, and we're going to talk about loads of our favorite moments today. But for me, the fact that they not only pulled off something that honored the style and the look and the detail and stuff like that, but that this was a new story in this universe, and it didn't feel out of place. It felt like we were watching the next chapter, and it just felt like nothing was out of place. And that, I think, is such a mammoth job to do, because video games are video games for a reason, and translating them to screen, it's often why other video game adaptations are so different from the games, because getting things to work in like a passive watching medium are not the same as a video game, but somehow they pulled it off. And I think that cannot be undersold enough. It's It ticked all the boxes. Well, it ticked lots of boxes that fans wanted, at least most of the fans, and gave us this new story, which by doing that just made the entire universe of Fallout richer and deeper, and added new characters and new story threads and new questions as well. Of course, new questions and thoughts about the future. So yeah, they had a mammoth task, and they unbelievably pulled it off. So for me, I'm still coming off. I've still only seen it once. I've seen episode 1 twice, but I need to watch the rest of the show again. I'm going to watch it with watch it through with my wife, but I can't see my opinions kind of waning. Really, it's really strong.
And like I said, it's there's so many hidden things in the especially in the first couple of episodes that are so easily missed. You kind of have to watch it through multiple times. Also, just throwing this out there, Tim Kaine, who is one of the creators of the Fallout, the original games, has said on his YouTube channel how much he loves the show. He's got a whole video on that, so go watch that if you're interested.
And I've seen a lot of people mad at the show for various reasons. I say I haven't seen a lot of people mad. I've seen some people mad at the show and implying that. I saw a really weird take. I can't believe I'm giving this the time of day, but somebody was getting annoyed because Todd Howard wasn't the creator, yet he receives this big credit on the show, and it's like...
well, so does Emil Tagliarulo.
It's such a kind of like baity, poking, like just looking for arguments take, because no one, I think, is that dumb, and no one is really that pedantic. And Tim Kaine has admitted that he loves the show, and he's also specifically said that he thinks this type of fan, or the fans that do this stuff, are...
ridiculous.
I'm paraphrasing, but they're ridiculous, and he's not a fan of that. So,
but Tim Kaine, Brian Fargo, they were given their own viewing along with Todd and Emil, I believe. So, and they both gave their stamp of approval. So, who are we to say that it's not faithful?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, right. Let's get into it. Like, as I mentioned, we're not going to go through every single episode. I mean, there's so much to say, and there's other people doing it.
We could spend an entire week on that.
Exactly. But I think we're just going to talk about stuff we really enjoyed, stuff that stuck out to us, like top moments or whatever, or criticisms if you have them as well. So, I'll let you start. I mean, just kind of go wherever you like with it. What was maybe one of your favorite episodes or favorite characters or stuff that you just keep thinking about? But from the whole entire season 1.
Oh my god! Like I said, the first 2 episodes especially were like they fit so much in those first 2 episodes. Like the entire season is basically like just introducing the world. Like, so like I think that's probably what it was supposed to do, is just kind of give an overall general view of, okay, this is what it's like in the Wasteland. Next season is when we're going to really get into like the nitty gritty and introduce new things. But what was really cool, I mean, we'll talk about more of this when we get to the lore talk, but there were so many theories about certain things that they kind of almost gave an answer to, like with dog meat, with the ghouls, with Vault Tech, which, again, like, but they didn't really flat out say this is what it is. Like that fight with the Yao Guai was awesome. The gulper, and that was originally one of my gripes. I'm like, that there's no way that's a gulper. That's not the gulpers that we know.
Yeah.
But so many things that people were kind of maybe pissy about from the trailers, again, I don't know why I'm giving this the time of day, but the Cyclops. They gave an explanation for that that made sense. Like, and we'd never seen vaults that were connected before. But again, like, if you watch the show in its entirety, everything gets explained pretty damn well.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this on the last episode, but the whole cousin stuff thing, I don't know if I mentioned this on this show or if it was on the Fallout Roundtable, but that was something that I kind of thought about playing Fallout Shelter. It kind of happened accidentally. Like, okay, why the hell are these two not getting it on? Oh, that's because they're related. Okay. But it's like if there's only so many people and you're in there for however long, eventually that sort of thing kind of happens.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and Lucy's like, yeah, no, this
but
isn't sustainable or something.
yeah,
in the
we
show.
can't keep doing this when we're an adults.
Yeah.
Sorry. And you could just tell he was not happy about that.
So
But
yeah, like that sort of moment and that kind of dialogue, I mentioned in part one how this show multiple times has moments that just I don't think other TV shows can get away with, because it's that weird stuff that you only find in video games. And I talked about, the stim pack use and stuff like that. It's like there's no
Yeah.
question. It's just no questions. It's like, okay, this is
Wilsick getting a robot leg.
yeah, exactly. And it's like it's all normal in the show, and you buy it, and it really sells the idea, and that's a credit to the performance and the world building and stuff like that. So yeah, like that stuff, that cousin stuff did make me laugh as well. I think the actual opening, when I think about stuff that's really strong, when I say opening the show, I mean like the first 40 minutes of episode 1. So where you've got obviously the pre-war opening, and then you've got the whole vault introduction leading up to the riot in the vault, basically. I think that first 40 minutes is some of the strongest TV you'll ever see. Like I say, it kind of presents you with so many weird moments and questions and stuff that you don't see on TV before, that I think you're either going to be completely disgusted and check out because you're not into this kind of stuff at all, or you're going to be so hooked because of how wild it is. So, and that's, like I say, there's two different things. So there's a pre-war section, which I think everybody can agree it's really chilling and horrible, and those bombs start dropping and I felt the heat. It's just it's terrifying. And then you jump to the vault and it's like, wow, what's going on here? And who's these characters? And they start delivering these weird bits of dialogue and stuff, and leading right up to, I mean, as a Fallout fan, I'm sort of in watching it like, okay, I'm figuring out what is coming and what is this going to be, because I know we're building something weird here. But I think even a more non-Fallout fan viewer might be watching it a bit more confused. And I don't mean that in a sort of way that says, yeah, you're not understanding it. I think it's supposed to be confusing and make you asking what's going on. But the tonal shift from that opening and then the fun, weird stuff in the vault to, you start to think, hang on, this wedding is a bit weird. And then Lucy goes
right.
off to, her room with this guy, and I mean, just the visual of her getting it on with the guy was kind of weird as well. And you think how, oh, she's just going for it. Like, okay, fine, like whatever. But then you got to put yourself in her mind and the position that she's in. And then right up to, she starts to hear the noises, the screaming, and she grabs her Pit Boy, aims it at the dude, and he's irradiating rads, and she's like, Raiders. And I was like, oh shit, here we go. And then it just goes absolutely nuts.
There were so many hints, even like as soon as they walked in from Vault 32, but I didn't really pick up on most of them until that guy's standing there in front of her, and I'm like I said, most people were probably staring at his ass, but I'd noticed like all of the scars on his body,
the scars, like
that huge scar on his side. I'm like, okay, something's off here, and it's just. But then, like, that's another thing. Like the trailer showed the raid, and pretty much every trailer showed the raid, and then I thought maybe that had to do something with the experiment of Vault 33, which I mean, in a way, it did.
Yeah.
But not in how I expected. So I was like, why is everybody losing their minds here? And okay. And then again, that's explained if you actually sit and watch the show. But yes, but the show did such a great job. Like the characters, they're so different, but it just goes to show like how many different ways people can approach the wasteland. Like Lucy's the happy-go-lucky, naive vault dweller that just doesn't know anything about the wasteland. You got Maximus, who grew up in a very structured environment and wants to be the, pun intended, I guess, knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And then you got the ghoul, who's kind of the asshole, a guy who's been beaten down by the wasteland over the last 200 years. And, I think Todd Howard did kind of talk about that. He basically said that each character kind of represents a certain player archetype.
Yeah.
That you could take. So well done with that too.
Yeah, that's like one of my notes here is, and okay, you can tell me if you think I'm being dramatic or hyperbolic with this, but I think so because of the way it juggles those three leads and those three different character types, and how pretty much the whole time you're not really sure who you're supposed to root for. Because all right, Lucy's placed as like the obvious good guy, but even she does stuff that you think, this is just, who is this weirdo, that's like grown up and with this weird look on the vault. And so
the way she approached the speech checks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly. And it's just like, yeah, so it does all these things with these characters. And tell me if you think I'm being ridiculous. I think because of how well it juggles these characters, I think that this story of this show is like one of the best in Fallout. I can't.
Oh yeah.
Like it's better. It's as good as anything in the games in terms. If we're just thinking about story and what it does with these characters, it's so well written. The managing of these three characters and the journeys they go on, and how you don't know who you're supposed to root for. You're wondering if their motivations are right. Who really is the asshole? Because Maximus does things sometimes that make you think, man, you're a dick. Like, what are you doing? And then like Lucy is chopping some guy's head off without asking any questions. And it's just
with
like
the Ripper, yeah.
And it's like, do you know what I mean? So for me, it's a highlight. The story is just, does it get much better?
And if
than
you
this?
think about it, like the stories from the games really don't take that long if you play them, if you focus on them. But then again, there's also that golden rule of thou shalt get distracted by bullshit every goddamn it's like whatever that one was. It's so true, but that's how you make the game last, however long you play it, because the main quest lines really don't take that long if you focus on them.
Yeah, it's oh my God, it's so funny just thinking about like how this is what I mean, how, and that's again to just reference the Stimpack thing again, video game references and how they so cleverly work it into this show and the dialogue and stuff that happens. And it's like I saw that even if you watch some of the, so you see this I think in both the Vault riot sequence and towards the end with the big clash with, spoilers, the NCR, the way that your body flops over in Fallout, the characters are doing that. It's just like where they're folding on themselves, and it's like this completely
fold backward and
this like completely slapstick way that if you saw this in another TV show, you'd just think, what the fuck am I watching? And they make it work so well. And obviously people that don't play video games are enjoying it because the show has done so well. It doesn't do so well just because the video game fans are liking it. It's had a broad appeal. So yeah, all those little references. Like I say, I don't like have a list of references in front of me, but the whole time you're spotting them say things and do things, and it's just like, it's so enjoyable to see that attention to detail.
Oh my God. Another example of Lucy's naivety is during the scene in the shootout at Ma June's
in the marketplace,
and she looks up on the wall and sees all these other weapons, including a junk jet, which would have been the most practical thing to use because she didn't need to get all this other ammo. She could have just used everything laying on the ground, and she uses her syringer again. It's like, what? Why?
Yeah, I love that scene in the market, and that was a clip that came out before the show, which again got some weird, stupid hate, which I talked about in part 1. But I thought that scene was really good, and it threw me off guard. And we'll talk about Wilzig a bit more in a minute, I expect. But he just gets his foot blown off, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're doing that, are we? And
he was set up to be a character, like one of the main side characters.
Yeah, so it just pulls the rug out from you completely and shows you, this is serious business. And this ghoul guy is serious business. The way he just blows everybody away in like a kind of comic fashion.
Bloody mess.
Yeah. What's the fruit he starts? Does he start eating tomatoes or something like that? And he flicks some caps at the end. Which
the cherry tomatoes,
yeah. I thought that was quite fun. So that scene, obviously...
It's like, you got a hole in your neck.
Yeah, that's the first time. Speaking of hole in your neck, I'm jumping ahead. When, oh God, what's the squire's name? The other squire. The one that's played by Johnny Pemberton. I'm forgetting.
I want to say it started with Thaddeus?
Thaddeus, yeah, you're right. He gets the arrow in his neck and just goes, "Why am I not dead?"
Right.
And it's like, there are so many one-liners in this show, and I'm getting sidetracked a little bit, but those Vault characters give some of the best one-liners. Who's I can't remember his name, the big, tall, grumpy guy as well, that just, when he says like, "Oh, how's your day going?" Or same as everybody else, because it's where they're cleaning up all the bodies after the riot.
Oh, right. Was that Chet or was that somebody else?
So it wasn't Chet. So Chet's the sort of, the dweeby guy who's in love with Lucy. I mean...
Yeah, that's her cousin.
Yeah,
the cousin stuff guy.
The older guy who also, when they're talking about who they're going to vote for the overseer, and he starts telling the guy, why he's going to not vote for him and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, there's a reason the voting's supposed to be private." I just thought there's multiple times these Vault characters kept giving really good one-liners. But I got sidetracked there. But what was I going to talk about? Yeah, that market scene. So that's like one of the few times in the show that all three of the leads are together. And it's kind of, establishing or attempting to establish mostly what they all want and what they want to do. The Ghoul character is the one who has the biggest question mark over him throughout the show, because that, okay, Lucy wants to find her dad. Maximus wants to be a knight and prove to everybody that he's a knight and stuff. But the Ghoul, it's like, oh, are you just a bounty hunter? Are you just killing for fun? What is it? And it isn't until... And again, this is spoilers, right towards the end. We get the context of him in the pre-war segments, but right towards the end, what is it? What does he say? "Where's my fucking family?" Or "What happened to my fucking family?"
Yeah, because he recognized Hank.
Yeah,
because Hank was a Vault-Tec employee.
That's right. Yeah.
From way back when, and that's part of what the experiment was with Vault 31 through 33. Is Vault 31 was there to house members of Vault-Tec.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you've played Fallout 4, you know that cryogenic freezing is a thing. But so they kind of introduced it here, and that kind of went into everything that happened with 32 and 33. But Hank was a fan of Cooper Howard, and Cooper's wife worked for Vault-Tec as well. Mm-hmm. So he knows that she probably went into the vault. So he's kind of looking for her, thinking maybe she was also part of that experiment.
Yeah, and you sort of, as you're watching the show, you think, because it's really not clear what happened. You see, okay, he's discovering more about what Vault-Tec were doing and what his wife were doing. And those pre-war sections are like some of the strongest parts of the show. I love how they ground the show. You're seeing all the wasteland stuff and it's absolutely bonkers. When you jump back to the pre-war sections, it's like, okay, all right, the timeline, the universe is slightly different, but this makes it feel like this is real. And, these are the people living in the world that's more like ours. But yeah, what I was going to say was, I like that throughout the show, you don't know who to root for, and the whole time you're like, this Ghoul guy is an asshole, and because everything he does in like the apocalyptic wasteland stuff, none of it really seems to serve anybody else or help anybody else, really. Like the way he uses Lucy as bait, the way he takes her to the super duper mart, the way he blows that kid away as well, like the ranger looking guys, whether they're rangers or not, obviously we don't know, but like that was it's dark stuff. And then you see the stuff that he goes through in the pre-war thing and in the pre-war sections, and it's like, yeah, he's been messed up, but you still don't really know how we got from that pre-war stuff and the bombs dropping, because at the opening of the show, it's like, yeah, it seems like him and his wife are separated, but the bombs are dropping. Like, where did he go then? Where did he take his daughter? Does he obviously, I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to save that to theories in a minute, because I'm going to got some theories obviously about what happened there. But my point, long way to a short point, is I love how you're asking questions the whole time about the Ghoul character until like one of those final scenes where he's like, "Where's my fucking family?" And that is just, it's so good how this asshole the whole way through the show, you're like, there's your humanity. I knew it was in there somewhere, and I loved that moment. And I loved all three of these lead characters in different ways, but I thought they did such a good job to make me, because there's many times you're watching the Ghoul character where you're like, why? I don't care about what happens to you. Look, you're an asshole with everything you're doing, but there's something about him, and it's not just his, boyish good looks that everyone seems to be enjoying, but it's, there's something in there.
I know a lot of people who were fans of his before the show even dropped, just because they're like, oh, Daddy Ghoul.
Yeah.
Daddy Ghoul. And then they're like, they see the scene in the marketplace when he, like, stabs dog meat, and like, wait, is this guy an asshole?
Yeah.
No!
Yeah. Yeah, that was hard to watch. And then, like, again, he uses the stim pack and the dog comes, but like sort of, it's all, right as rain.
But that was also another example of him using his brain, because, the dog belonged to Wilsig. So he's like, okay, you're going to take me to your master.
Yep.
So I'm going to use you. But that's kind of what the Wasteland does to people.
Yeah. I'm so intrigued about this Wilsig character, and I don't know if you've got any more thoughts on him, but I mean, first and foremost, Michael Emerson.
Yeah, he was Enclave.
Yeah, he was Enclave, and again, we don't know exactly. I mean, we've seen a little bit about his experiments with the dogs and stuff, but what?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of gave us a little bit of the dog meat theory. It's just like, what's with these dogs that are around that seem like normal dogs, but they're obviously stronger than normal dogs, because they're taking a lot of abuse and giving it right back. So we kind of got an answer, maybe, for at least some of them.
I hope I'm going to save that again for the future, actually, because we got a section where we're going to talk about what we want to come in the future. Let me just think about some other stuff that I really liked. The Ghoul stuff, I thought the Super Duper Mart section where it went full-blown horror, and, the feral ghouls get accidentally let out by Lucy.
Yeah,
that
episode 4.
So good. Such a good scene. Obviously, we had the Mr. Handybot, or Snip Snip, as he's called in the show, which was done so well. That whole sequence I loved. I mentioned the Gulper sequence where the ghoul is using Lucy as bait and just dunking her in the water over and over. Like, there's so many uncomfortable moments in this show. And again, I talked about in part 1 how this TV show does really well to balance video game bonkersness, the Fallout weirdness, and dark stuff as well. Like, they're serious, these characters, and some of the stuff they're doing is serious. And, the Gulper section, I think the Gulper looked great visually as well.
And I'm like the fingers moving in the Gulper's mouth, like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, the vomiting I thought was good when Thaddeus was being swallowed whole, and we just had Maximus trying to pull him out, and then it's just all the vomit everywhere. Loads of good stuff with the Gulper, and obviously some more kind of weird stuff with the Gulper later on in the show as well.
Yeah, we get an answer to that whole thing, like I said. So. That was one of my main things. I was like, that has to be just a new creature, but no, it was, in which maybe it kind of is, because we'll get into that.
It's definitely a variation of the. You can have a Gulper, but you can have different types of Gulpers. It's just like Gulper.
There's different strains of super mutants.
Exactly,
Gulper's there's a little foreshadowing there.
It's like a catch-all term. It's like saying dog. There's lots of different types of dog. So there's different types of Gulpers out there. What else was I going to say? So, I love the Gulper stuff, the Raider opening scene, weird characters in the vault, pre-war stuff I've talked about. I do need to watch the show again, because I know that they're... Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. So, I mean, there's two things. When you talk about supporting characters, there's just obviously... There's a few weird ones in this show. We've got... I guess we'll just call him Chicken Fucker, I suppose. Like, I'm not sure what his name is.
That stage performer.
Yeah. Again, just
which, he seems to be a fan favorite too.
Such contrast with the rest of the show is this character in there, in the way he's just completely off his head, in the way he talks, the way he dresses, and obviously some of his behavior by the looks of it. And he shows up a couple of times and in some great scenes both times. Also, when Lucy is first out in the vault and she just comes across the guy that's living by himself, and he's like, "Oh, you could live with me," and he's just like so casually,
the loincloth guy.
Yeah, he's so brain rotted from the wasteland that it's just, this is how people are up here.
I'm gonna die soon. Yeah. You can have all of this. It can be yours.
Yeah. So yeah, just this, like I say, supporting characters over the show, just weird quirkiness, like what happens in the games. You'll wander around and you just bump into characters that seem completely detached from everything that's going on around you, and they've got their fun little side quests, or even not a side quest, or just something, they just talk to you about something. And it's like, often you will find yourself playing the game, you're just like, yeah, okay, bye now, I think I'm done here, because they're just chatting like nonsense to you.
One thing that this show does so well, which again is one of the first things that I experienced playing one of the Fallout games, is the environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
I'll never forget playing Fallout 3, and I think this was in Minefield, the town of Minefield, and you come across these houses, and you see these skeletons positioned in a way that you just know what was going on when the bombs dropped. And you find that here too, like, especially once again, I keep going back to like episode 1 or 2, and this was in episode 2, where she's just walking around, walks into this house and sees this skeletal family around a table and finds a bottle of poison. So you know what
that was
going on leading up to the bombs. Like, okay, we're all going to die anyway. Let's just go out on our own terms.
Yeah. And it's one of those dark moments, like I say, the show jumping between the stuff that it does, and you're like, I'm watching that, and it's horrifying. And it's it does really, really well. And I think there was other little moments like that. The Assaultron just lying down in the sand as well was like really unsettling. It's like, yep, you're kind of lucky that thing isn't up and walking about, because
right.
Which
God, try going at that with a syringe.
Yeah, again, this just leaves so much more to the future. Before we move on to some lore stuff, just again a shout out to the music. Talked about in part 1.
The music was top. Yeah, it was great.
It's sort of like, you do. I wondered before the show came out, I was like, how far are they going to go with this? Like, are they just going to like pepper 1 or 2 songs in there to like as reference to the fans? And it's like, nope. The entire show is driven.
Yeah, they went for it.
Yeah, driven by those songs. Oh, we have the sound, the existing songs and then the score, but those songs from the radios that are over the show, used over and over again.
You called them needle drops?
Needle drops, yeah, that's what they call them. They just, every time I'm just smiling, tapping my feet and singing along, or hooked in watching it. I thought the use of the Johnny Cash stuff was really good for Maximus as well.
Which I don't think they've used Johnny Cash in a game before. That was great.
Yeah, that was... and I wonder if that's just because they're really expensive, so it wasn't until Amazon came along and they're like, yeah, we can license this, no problem. So I think they use a couple of Johnny Cash songs, but the So Doggone Lonesome one for Maximus when he's getting beaten up is good. And then it comes back again, doesn't it, when they tried to steal the power armor from him? Is that right? And it's just...
I think so.
I'm sure I'm sure it's used a couple of times, or 2 Johnny Cash songs. Like I say,
I think it was a couple of different ones.
Yeah. So I just love the use of the music. And again, just to reiterate my feelings, like, I thought the use of We Three towards the end was poetic and just, profound. These 3 characters, the lyrics of this song just went so perfectly with the end of the show. And yeah, it was just awesome to hear all that Fallout music, which for years we've talked about how this is such a fun, enjoyable part of playing Fallout. I'm so glad that they did not skimp on the music licensing, because I think it just helps the show in so many ways.
I'm kind of curious now as to whether or not like the platform like Spotify or Amazon Music is now seeing a huge spike in those songs.
I expect so.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I so often at home we'll use Spotify for like 60, we'll say put on 60s playlist. And this weekend when I did it, there was way more Fallout songs in that playlist than there has been in the past.
Nice.
And that's because that's obviously the algorithm. Excuse me, got slight hiccups here. The algorithm bringing in all the songs that people are searching for and playing more, undoubtedly because of this show. So yeah, it's definitely just like it has with the games. I'm sure all the music gets a bump, and yeah, it's just, like I say, an awesome to see because it's such an important part. It's such a part about Fallout which I think maybe, I don't want to say I took for granted, but I'm just so used to it being there. But then to see the songs used in this show and the way they were just gave it all so much more weight and so much more depth. So yeah, huge thumbs up from me for the music side as well.
Yeah, just like kind of Fallout in general, everybody's starting to discover the games now. It's like, what have I been doing? Like, I've been telling you about this shit for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to a bit of lore stuff. I mean, is there anything else, just any other highlights or things you wanted to point out about the show or from any of the episodes before we move on to a bit of lore?
No, I just think that it's captured everything so brilliantly, and it's just, it just kind of hits you in the feels, just actually seeing it play out on your TV in a way that, like, Tim Kaine, I mentioned that interview earlier. He said that it's such a hard task. Yeah, post-apocalyptic shows or kind of and movies are a dime a dozen.
Yep.
But for it to actually feel like Fallout is not an easy task. But this does it so, again, brilliantly. I'm failing to think of another adjective. It's just it was so well done.
Yeah. Cool.
Can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. Okay, so Eric, I would say you're the lore expert of the two of us. You pull it out of you like an encyclopedia sometimes, and I struggle to keep up. But I think we're going to talk about just a little bit about what we think this show, I mean, what does it do for the lore? How does it fit with everything? And, is it a valuable addition? Do you have any thoughts on maybe the questions or inconsistencies, if there are any? But yeah, just from an overall perspective, what's your feeling on what this show does for Fallout lore?
It's I kind of mentioned this earlier, but there's been several theories going around about a number of things, like with dog meat, and again, like that the whole thing with Wilsig, it kind of gave somewhat of an answer as to what's going on with dog meat and why there's so many dog meats around. Like the dog in Fallout 3. Like, I mean, dog meat's been around since the beginning. But there's been so many different iterations, and this kind of gives a little bit of an explanation for that. The whole thing with the ghouls, that's always kind of been a question as well, like whether or not every single ghoul in existence will go feral.
Yeah.
Or if not, what keeps that from happening? And we kind of get maybe an answer to that. But again, it's like, okay, but why? What the drug that the ghoul keeps taking? And the other ghoul, what was his name? The first one that he was talking to with Lucy.
I don't remember, but I was just going to say, I love that touch because the female ghoul does it earlier. It seems like there's this established idea that if you think you're turning feral, you have to keep repeating your own name to remind yourself who you are, and so you don't turn completely feral, which I was like a really kind of haunting touch to
Martha.
Yeah, oh my god. And this idea that you're losing your mind and you have to keep reminding yourself who you are and you don't turn crazy. I can't remember the other ghoul's name, but obviously he gets spoiler alert, shot in the head because Cooper can tell he's lost, there's no getting him back, so
he was kind of giving him a mercy there. And then spoilers, at the very end we see Lucy's mom, and she was completely rotted compared to the others. But yeah, I think it, and then again, we don't really get any definitive answer within these. They kind of like hint at, like, drop heavy implications with them, but it doesn't just flat out say yes. They have to take this drug, otherwise they will eventually all go feral. It just may be a matter of time.
Yeah. And it's like, it might be for some, it works for some and doesn't work for others. And I think it does, sorry to cut you off, like it just, the it does that with a few other things in the show, obviously, with because I've seen some tweets saying, oh, now that the TV show has confirmed that Vault-Tec were the ones that dropped the bombs, what do we think about this? And it's like, no, the show doesn't confirm that.
But we don't know if they actually did push the button or not.
Exactly. The show doesn't confirm that at all. What the show does is the same things the game do. The game does, where it gives you implications that there is a possibility that this group of people or this faction did this or this means this. You know, that Vault-Tec spend a lot of the show, or certainly leading up towards the end, hinting about how a nuclear war would be beneficial and allow them to sell these vaults and stuff like that. But there's no
back to our first episode, guys.
Yeah, there's no point in the show where it's like, yeah, that's Vault-Tec pushing the button and giving the green light and it happening. So it just gives us more insight into what went down, but without fully and specifically answering the question in one way or another. Eric's disappearing. There he is. He's back. Yeah, and it Yoda's come to join us.
Yeah, he was being a loudmouth. So
yeah, so like with the ghouls and whether you turn feral, who dropped the bombs, and you know, there's questions about the characters even. You know, I mentioned the family stuff with the ghoul. There's all this groundwork is being done to either enhance things that we already know or present new questions, which is good. I don't think, you know, it's nice to have some answers now and again, but you know, there's like a story notion, or what's the old phrase? It's like the knowing is kind of the most boring part. It's like the journey, and figuring out and theorizing and stuff like that. And this show does a lot of that.
And Bethesda's so good at that, like having some sort of grand mystery, like who dropped the first nuke, where did the Dwemer go? You know, they're so good at having, you know, some sort of mystery. But yeah, again, like a lot of people are like, oh, you know, that kind of goes against the original lore with, I think it was Fallout 2, where they say, no, it was China that dropped the first nuke. Oh, well, this is going against the original developers. No, it was. They said that they could drop the first nuke, like they planned to, but maybe either China, the U.S., or hell, maybe even the aliens, you know, dropped the first one instead and just got the drop on them.
Yeah,
drop on them. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no definitive answer, which I love. I mean, it has a kind of overarching message that you know, these people in charge are probably not good, and you know, it's a big sort of anti-capitalist message as well. But I think for me, generally, like as I said, you're sort of the lore expert, and the whole reason I started this show was to ingrain myself more in the lore and learn about the game that I love, because stuff that had previously gone over my head. And I feel like I've become, I'm not going to call myself a Fallout expert, but it's definitely, since doing this show, it's enriched my experience with the games because of what I've learned about the lore. And then when I think about what this TV show does, and just, you know, at risk of repeating myself again, but it does things that I've kind of wanted other adaptations to do, that things that like the Resident Evil adaptations never do, where it's presented consistent story that sits in the world and adds a new chapter and gives you potential for the future in both the TV show and the games. Yeah, and like I say, it makes it richer, because video game adaptations to screen generally either just ignore the games or take into consideration what games did and then just do whatever they want with it and then go on their own path, and it just kind of blows it all out the water. But this show made a concentrated effort to fit in the timeline, to not disrupt any of the, shall we say, like foundations. You know, it might sort of wobble some of the stuff around it, but that's fine as long as, you know, those foundations are there and it keeps the I was going to say benchmarks or the cornerstones, you know, of the lore in place. It just enriches the whole world, and I think the show does it in lots of ways, for the ghouls, for the dogs, for the Enclave, for Vault-Tec, for everything. So yeah.
I mean, the fact that Todd and Emil were, especially Todd, though, were so intimately involved in the production of this show, definitely gave it an edge for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if they do that with Resident Evil. I can't imagine that.
No, so from what
so many iterations.
What I
Resident
understand
Evil.
is often that stuff is farmed out to, whoever is producing it, Sony Pictures or Netflix, and people at Capcom generally say, oh, these are the characters' names and stuff. There you go. They do whatever they want with it. And maybe that is because, and don't kind of misinterpret me when I say this, but like Resident Evil is a Japanese IP, and most of the adaptations are Western adaptations. So there's going to be a certain degree of disconnectivity there. Whereas with this, it's
creative license, y'all.
Yeah. Whereas here, it's much easier for Todd to be involved and and he's gone on record to say, nope, they're making sure things are nice and tight and fit as well as they can. They've divulged or asked them not to do certain things because there's ideas they've got for Fallout 5 that they don't want to quite reveal yet, and they don't want it to conflict with that. So, yeah, I think, like I've said, it's just so good that this chapter of Fallout doesn't disrupt everything. And clearly, and I hope other adaptations in future take note of that, because it shows you that you can just help build this bigger connected world. And why wouldn't you, because it just adds for a whole bigger experience that you can absorb through different mediums, through games, through TV shows, movies, books as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how many different comic book movies are there out there these days? And there, for the longest time, the outfits were not comic book, like out of the comic books. They were like black leather or something like, oh, it wouldn't look good on the screen. Well, guess what? It can.
Yeah.
And they've proven that since then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen, there was a big scene in the show which became controversial because, and again, I'm retreading what's kind of already been said by other people, but if you haven't heard, so there's a scene in the show which effectively is a lore dump where Lucy walks into a classroom and sees a timeline about Shady Sands and what happened to Shady Sands and the NCR and stuff like that. And some people took issue because I think the conflict they raised was, well, this basically means that New Vegas couldn't happen, and because of the timeline on this board, but or is it because in the show, in the show, Shady Sands is wiped off the map, and it's not made clear in the show how it was wiped off the map and what this. I mean, it is eventually, so towards the end.
Yeah, eventually it is.
And you're watching the show and you're like, oh, does this just mean it was wiped off the map when the bombs dropped? And it's like, no, because Maximus was around and he was at Shady Sands after it was blown
there.
up. And
yeah.
So the timeline, and again, you'll know the numbers and years probably better than me, but it's like, and Todd Howard confirmed this, that what the show does with the destruction of Shady Sands effectively means that it was blown off the map by, by Hank.
Vault-Tec.
Yeah, by Vault-Tec.
Yeah.
Effectively right after the end of New Vegas, which means New Vegas did happen, but then that was it. And then it was blown off, and then Shady Sands was blown off the map there. And because obviously people finish New Vegas and think, oh, okay, it's gone on to then have lots of story after it. And it's like, well, no, the show is saying that Shady Sands, and we don't know what state New Vegas is in really at the moment. And we're going to get to in a minute sort of the future. But yeah, I think a lot of people who were maybe preemptively upset that these dates and years were conflicting and meaning that New Vegas couldn't happen, I think by the time the show wraps, it's like, no, New Vegas did happen, and also now the people who made the show have come out and said it happened.
Now I'm saying it. Todd Howard flat out said New Vegas is canon.
Yeah.
And so everybody who kept saying it was retconned, say you haven't watched the show, like finished the show without saying you haven't finished the show.
Yeah.
Because and that was another thing. Like I think they mentioned Shady Sands in New Vegas, but it was mainly a feature of Fallout 1. It's one of the first places you come to in Fallout 1. But yeah, it's like, again, just as Sam Roberts says, let them cook.
Yeah.
Because once you get to the end of the show, everything is kind of, well, most things are explained really well.
Well, it sets us up. It sets us up for the future, and I think we're going to move to the future. But it's just, I think it's important to recognize that, because I did see a bit of people freaking out about the lore, and I need to sort of hold my hands up. Like, I love that the lore is being, and the canon is being respected and all kept nice and tight. But I will say there is a part of me that actually doesn't care that much. Like, I could still watch this show, and if they were like, the year slightly conflicts with when New Vegas happened, I just don't care. I actually don't think it matters that much, and there's no reason why they couldn't, still say it happened. It's like, yeah, the year is slightly different, but it does exist together. I think to get hung up too much on those details is about a year written on a chalkboard. We don't know who wrote that year on the chalkboard as well. People could be lying. Like, there's nothing definitive about it. So what was I saying? I don't know. I was saying something about...
Well, I was about to say Tim Kaine kind of addressed that as well. Like, there's so many other ways that they could go about. Like, maybe one of the characters, like, got the dates wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody was lying. There's so many ways that they can go about that. And, like, depending on where you get the information. And the Elder Scrolls kind of does this, too. Where it's like, you read things in some of the books, and you have to keep in mind, like, what the context is behind that, because maybe the author has some sort of agenda.
Yeah.
Like the first book that comes to mind is the Talos Mistake. That was propaganda from the Thalmor to discredit the fact that Tiber Septim ascended to godhood. So maybe there's kind of that thing going on behind the whole Shady Sands debacle. You just don't get your panties in a bunch.
Yeah, and there's so much to come that's going to, like I say, add details. And so let's move on to... So we'll talk about how the show wraps up, and we'll look ahead to the future and maybe some ideas or theories we have or wish lists for the future. So as we've established, it's revealed that Vault-Tec and Hank specifically were involved with wiping Shady Sands off the map, which obviously upsets Lucy quite a bit. Maximus is left unconscious, and the ghoul is kind of recruits Lucy because she wants to track down her father, and the ghoul is understanding that Hank knows where the ghoul's family is. And by family, I think we can deduce his wife and child, who are shown in the pre-war section.
Yeah.
So, and the show ends with Hank walking over the hill and looking down to a vista of New Vegas. And it's like, there we go. There's New Vegas. And it's from where he stands, it's not clear what shape New Vegas is in. It doesn't look like, they could have gone a couple of ways here. It could have been at night and we could have seen it all lit up and stuff, but it's not really that. It looks like it's possibly derelict, but I doubt it's completely derelict. I doubt it's devoid of people. We also had a scene later in the season with Robert House right there at the table. So he's around, or was around, and in theory, is he...
Yeah, that was pre-war.
Yeah, what state is he in? Is it going to be the same state he was in New Vegas or what? But anyway, so Hank's on the run. Lucy wants to track him down. So does the ghoul. And Maximus has kind of been lifted up as the person who has taken down Moldova, and he's now officially Knight. Do they call him Knight Maximus or Knight? Do they call him? What do they call him in the end?
I think so, because there for a while he took Titus's identity.
Yeah.
But he did come clean to the Elder, and they're like, well, that just shows you were efficient in getting the job done. Yeah. So I don't know if they officially knighted him or not. I can't imagine them not, because he was still using the power armor.
Yeah. So that's where we are, and it's been confirmed the show's going to get another season. What's your thoughts? I mean, where do you think the show's going to go? Where would you like it to go? What do you think?
So many ways. I mean, I'm so glad that they showed House was a part of that meeting with Vault-Tec and the other company representatives. But I mean, in a way, that does mean that we're going to get a definitive ending to New Vegas, because I don't know about you, but before I really knew much about the lore behind House, I killed him a few times. So, I mean, maybe he's still alive, or maybe they'll just avoid having present him in the game. I don't know. Um, Here's the thing. I know so many people have, for however many years, have been harping on for like a New Vegas 2. I'm glad that it's being included, but I don't want it to be the main setting of the season. But maybe that's their way of silencing these people. I don't know. There's so many different ways that they can go about it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Lucy or the Ghoul's family is being held up in Vault 21. Or maybe they're in the Lucky 38. I don't know. But again, there's so many ways they can go about it. I don't know. I don't know what other story they could tell. But maybe this is kind of an indirect sequel to New Vegas.
Yeah. I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think they're ever going to make a New Vegas 2. I think this will effectively be New Vegas 2. And I think the show has been obviously a big success, which means that season 2 will probably get a slightly larger budget as well. And this was an expensive show to begin with. We talked. Just from,
you can tell. Yeah. And I'm glad that they didn't have sure, there was some CGI, but
there's a lot of practical.
A lot of it was done with practical effects, which I think really benefited from it because, you see some crazy things in the games, but a lot of it is practical. There's laser rifles and things like that, which the weapons in this were spot on too. Like seeing all those laser pistols and laser rifles and the junk jet. I was kind of hoping, because I think in one of the games you can have bear arms, like you can use like either the claws or the head from Yao Guai as a weapon. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this might be controversial. I don't want a New Vegas 2. I'd rather them do something new, but that's kind of what they did with this TV show. Yeah. And maybe that's kind of what they're doing here. Is they'll have New Vegas as a setting, but it's going to be something completely new.
I think,
and not have involve the Legion or the NCR are definitely going to be a part of it. Yeah. But they already are. Because that's something we didn't really touch on, is the fact that Moldover was NCR, as well as Vault-Tec.
Yeah. I just think all the people who were very upset that there wasn't more New Vegas stuff in season 1 are going to be rewarded with season 2. I think you don't.
Yeah, you see a ranger.
Yeah.
You see the ranger armor.
You do not end the season 1 TV show with a giant shot of the city without that going to be. I mean, but they could always could do a rug pull, and a bomb could get dropped on New Vegas in episode 1 of season 2. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think purely because New Vegas, from a stylistic point of view and a visual point of view, how do you set season 2 apart from season 1? And I think there's a few ways you can do it. Well, for a start, if you're setting it in New Vegas, instantly that's going to be different from the desolate wastelands and stuff that we've seen, and potentially to see casinos and neon lights and stuff. Stylistically, there's your difference maker.
Maybe the Kings.
Yeah, there's your difference maker. And also, I think the show at the end of season 1, I think, unless I'm misunderstanding it, I think it outright does it's basically going to do a flip on who the character focus is. And whereas Lucy was the focus of, we've got the 3 leads, but Lucy kind of feels like the main lead and main focus.
Yeah. But at the same time, they need to wrap everything up with Hank. So
yeah, I think the Ghoul character will be far more the lead of season 2, and because they've set it up.
Yeah.
He said, where's my family? So, that doesn't mean he's going to get any kind of more screen time. I mean, maybe
it fits the theme of him as well, since he was in all those spaghetti westerns and everything else.
There you go. Exactly.
They didn't really go into his backstory. Like, he was was it a Marine or?
Well, he was in the wards. He said he was fighting in Anchorage, right?
Right.
So, I just think the show just does it in black and white there at the end. It puts the Ghoul front and center and basically does not a face turn for him, but it shows that his humanity is there. He's hunting for his family. His motivation becomes clear. Lucy will tag along, They're going to go to New Vegas, and whether the entire season is set there, I mean, it's hard to say, but I think a large chunk of it will be we're going to get a whole bunch of New Vegas connections and stuff that we saw in the game brought to the show, because I don't think we're getting a New Vegas 2 game. I just don't think that's ever happening. So we'll get it all in the show.
Right.
I think we'll get more flashback sequences. I think it's very unlikely we will see Cooper's wife and child in ghoul form. I'm pretty sure they've just been frozen, and they are either still frozen and he's going to find them and maybe have to make a decision on whether to unfreeze them, or maybe they're already unfrozen and they're living in New Vegas and they have to face him in his ghoul form, and his daughter's going to be terrified of him or something like that. There's just, I mean, that we've seen it all before, these it's like a cliched thing across TV shows and, reuniting. I think of RoboCop and, good guys taking on different forms and, and then the families having to deal with that and the ramifications of that. I think it's going to present for some really interesting stuff for the Ghoul character in Series 2. And I think, obviously, because he's been massively popular in the feedback and in the memedom and stuff like that, they will
Ghoul.
Yeah, they will keep using him. And I was very surprised that none of the characters bit the dust and nobody was really killed off.
Aside from Wilzig, quickly, but
so of the 3 leads, but Wilzig. But what I was going to say was, so season 2, I mean, maybe you want to start adding a bit more jeopardy, and possibly they don't all 3 make it through. I think Walton Goggins is a very expensive actor. If I was to bet on anything, I'd say his arc might come to an end in season 2. But again, I could be wrong.
Yeah. So is Kyle, but maybe that's why they only used him really.
Yeah, he's in it. Eric, he's in it for like 10
sparingly.
minutes. Yeah, he's barely in it. What else was I going to say? Wilzig, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of him. I'm sure there'll be some more Enclave flashbacks and stuff like that. So, because I think it would be a shame to waste Michael Emerson. He's another incredible actor. He, sort of commands.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some flashbacks as to more of his Enclave experiments.
Yeah. So I'm just very excited to see basically the Ghoul, this asshole character, really become probably the softie of season 2. And it's this, I love that they're playing the long game with this, because they left so much out of the season 1. We didn't get any death claws. I mean, we got the skull, but we didn't get any.
Yeah, we got a skull, but no super. We kind of get a glimpse of a super mutant
in a drawing.
I think Wilsig had one on a gurney or something like that.
Oh, was there one on a gurney? I might have missed that, but I know there's
or maybe I can't remember exactly what it was, but we do kind of get. Like he's wheeling something away, which I'm pretty sure is because the whole thing that in Vault 4 was dealing with FEV, which we didn't really mention, but that's how we get all those different mutations, is they were experimenting with serums. There's so many things. How did we not get any?
Well,
real super mutants or death claws, and there's some people speculating that maybe that all of the death claws were killed off at some point. But it's like, how do you have Fallout without super mutants or death claws? They've been there since the beginning.
Yeah, I think people need to calm down with that. The reason is because don't blow your load all in one go, and this is the right way to do it. This is. Let's save some of it for future seasons, because they could have crammed in synths, robots, death claws, super mutants, scorch beasts or whatever, they could have crammed it all, and it would have become a bit of a joke, and the show just would have become convoluted,
super convoluted. Yeah.
And so they've made it clear that death claws exist because we've seen the skull, and it just gives an opportunity for season 2 to have other features, to have super mutants. We may not even get super mutants in season 2. Maybe they'll save that till season 3, if there is a season 3. I think, but what I was going to say was, I just like that they are pacing it out, and there's, because it's left you wanting more, because we haven't seen
exactly, which is the best thing, that the best way to leave them, because it's like, again, like with these games, like I was like, okay, been there, done that. which is why, like, I keep saying I don't want a direct sequel to New Vegas, because we've already been there. We've already seen New Vegas. Like, I'd rather something new, and they kind of have to do that with the show as well, which is probably why they are taking us to a new area. Like, we've already seen California, which is where the first 2 games took place. Let's see another part of the country. So,
yeah, I think. So yeah, this show is was it 12 years after Fallout 4 or something like that? Is that right?
Something 9.
9 years, yeah. So, but like I say, let's not get hung up on those numbers. But season 2, yeah, we could have characters from Fallout 4 show up in season 2, and I think everybody would lose their minds if, like, Nick Valentine was to show up or something like that. And
oh god, I'd love that.
There is just so much potential,
even if it's just have him in the background. Like,
I can't imagine it'll be just in the background. I think they're, you know, so to do a synth and to do a character like Nick Valentine is a hell of an ask in terms of visuals, effects, and budget, right? It's not a cheap character to do. So there's a reason why, you know, he wouldn't have been present here in season 1. So he probably would have taken up half the budget. But I think because he's such a visually stunning character, I think it would be a wasted opportunity to not... It's one that I could see translating to the show because, okay, so a lot of the humans, you know, they age, and all right, we can do de-aging and stuff like that, but Nick Valentine effectively can be timeless and can just look how he looks in Fallout 4 and could show up in the show. But yeah, like I say, just to recap, I think New Vegas 2 is coming in the form of Fallout Season 2, and the Ghoul is going to have the biggest face turn ever, and you'll see that he's been right this whole time, if you like. We might see Lucy go dark, you know? Is she going to be able to hold on? You know, what I suppose all she's holding on to now is hoping that she reunites with Maximus at some point, but, you know, she's shot her Ghoul mother, and it's just like...
Yep.
Mercy. She's going to have a lot to be dealing with in season 2, and I think we're going to see a much less chirpy Lucy in season 2. And yeah, I mean, he asks the question as well, doesn't he? What's the line? He says something about there's a line about something you're looking for, but are you going to like the person you've become once you find it, or something like that? Are you going to like... Yeah,
Wilsick said that. Yeah.
You're going to change, and that's what this show is
about.
You
got to adapt. You need to be more like the surface dwellers.
This show is about character arcs, and it's why it presents the Ghoul so hard as this evil character, because we're going to come round to him. We're going to come round to him in a big way once he's there crying when he sees his family or something, you know, in season 2. So I'm just so excited. It's going to be a while. I'm sure it'll be 2 years before season 2 is here, because this is the nature of TV production these days. Certainly 18 months. I hope they don't rush it, you know.
Yeah, they're so great at presenting gray.
Yeah.
And this show does a great job. Like, just Fallout 4, there's no real good guy or bad guy faction. They've all got their positives and negatives, and that's really, we see a lot of that here too. And just take the Ghoul. Like, a lot of people may say, oh, well, he's got to be one of the bad guys. But once you learn more about his motivations, like, he watched it, like he had that earpiece on, or whatever. Like, he heard everything that his wife was saying in that meeting. So, and you know, there's speculation behind that. Like, maybe she saw something on her Pip-Boy that, like, where she was being blackmailed.
Yeah,
we don't know. So
yeah.
I mean, again, I can't think of any way they could have really done this better than they did.
Yeah. And
I mean, say what you will about that. I mean, yeah, you want to nitpick. I didn't really care for how Maximus glided down from that building.
Yeah,
and the power armor.
But again,
when have we seen that?
Yeah, but again, it's just it is a nitpick, and it just doesn't matter really. I mean, right. We didn't really talk about Maximus there for the future, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, he can't retain his established position now in the Brotherhood of Steel without probably becoming an even bigger dickhead. So, you know, he's probably going to be doing things that maybe turn him into the bad guy in season 2. And I think we're going to see a lot of flip-flopping with the characters. And if the character development and character writing is as good as it has been in season 1, then season 2 has the potential to be something really, really special and take us on a very emotional ride, I would say.
Yep. And I can't wait.
Yes, I can't wait either. Cool. Well, all right, let's look at wrapping this up. I mean, do you have anything else to say about season? I mean, this probably isn't going to be the last time we talk about this show. It's going to keep coming up in conversation.
Oh, no.
So,
yeah.
But yeah,
I'm going to be watching it several more times.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Anything else to say before we disappear today?
No, just if you guys want to talk more about it, you know how to get a hold of us. So. And well, I'm sure we're going to tell you how. Yeah. in case you don't know, because like you said, we've seen a lot of new listeners. One of the guys who's part of the Modus File, like he's a listener to the Modus Files. He was on my he was in my Twitch stream the other day and was like, "Wait, you have another podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." Lawrence shouts us out at the end of every episode.
Yeah,
which I really appreciate that. Thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah, a big shout out to, like I say, all that we have, like people that we, that we work with and other content creators that we love. Everybody, I think, is doing such a good job at helping show why the Fallout fandom is such a good place to be. And as I say, we are just a small corner of that. I really loved this show, and I'm definitely going to be talking about it more in the future. Going to be watching it again as well, but like Eric said, come and let us know what you thought. We're both on Twitter. I am at K_D_B_. Eric is at ENGold08, and then our tapes account is TFTWpod. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, subscribe on whatever podcast feed you're listening on, give the podcast a rating on Spotify or a review on Apple Podcasts as well. All that stuff that you're supposed to do with content on the internet. We'd really, really appreciate it. And I've just really enjoyed just chatting about this show because it's been, like I say, a moment for Fallout. It's just, and to underline it, it's an amazing Fallout adaptation, video game adaptation. I just think it's a really great TV show. It's one of the better shows I've seen in the last decade, easily. And there's been a lot of...
Absolutely. Even if it didn't have to do with a video game.
Exactly.
Like it was...
There's been a lot of good TV in recent years, and this, thankfully, doesn't leave me in a position where I'm feeling embarrassed to be a Fallout fan by any stretch of the imagination, because it is flipping awesome. So, yes, I just nothing else to say really. Thank you to everybody for listening. Like Eric said, new listeners, old listeners. We look forward to talking more about Fallout in future. And until next time, stay safe out there, Wanderers.
Bye, everybody.